For what would have been my unannounced visit, I would have done a lesson on paychecks because during the weeks leading up to spring break, before spring break, we did gross and net income as well as taxes and budgeting. So I felt it was important to include understanding a paycheck because the point of these students in this program is to hopefully gain employment afterwards. So my standard for this specific lesson for understanding paycheck would be discuss why people choose jobs, because that's the ultimate goal, is to find a job that you're interested in. So my agenda would be to review the gross and net income from the previous lesson, and as well as taxes, and discuss the different kinds of taxes. And then number 2, we would look over an example paycheck together as a class and kind of break it apart and answer some comprehension questions about it. And then I would collect those. And then for number 3, this would be an individual assignment, so all the students would have a computer and a set of headphones, and they would go on their Edpuzzle account and they would watch a video on understanding a paycheck. And this video will stop at random times throughout and ask them comprehension questions on what was just taught to them. So I am allowed to go in on my end and look and see how the students did with this. And then for number 4, after everybody completes the video, I would have a discussion about why people choose certain jobs, for example, for their happiness and their pay. So, with that being said, my indicators are: number 1, reviews content within a lesson. Number 12, maintains a climate of fairness and support. Number 15, uses verbal and nonverbal behavior that shows interest and respect for students. And number 18, uses formative and or summative assessment to measure or monitor student learning. So my formative would be having the students recall what they know about a paycheck. And then my summative would be the computer assessment on the Edpuzzle, understanding a paycheck with the comprehension questions, because like I said, I can go back in and see how they did with that. So to dive into the lesson, I would first do a review, like I said, of the gross and the net income and the taxes. So I would ask the students if they could tell me what the gross and net income is, and I would let them refer back to the vocabulary that I gave them, which would look a little something like this. And they should tell me that gross income is income before any taxes are taken out of. So this is usually the larger amount. And then they should tell me that net income is the money that's left over after taxes are taken out. So this number is usually less. And then I'll say, well, what can you tell me about taxes? What are they? And the student should say that taxes are money paid to the government in exchange for labor or services. So I'll say, well, is there only one kind of tax, or is there a different kind of taxes? And they should say that there's more than one, and then I would ask them if they can list them off for me. And I would write them on the board, and they should say payroll tax, income tax, sales tax, and property tax. And I'll ask them if they can explain like any of those into more detail, and most of them would probably pick sales tax because they see that on all their receipts when they purchase something at the store. They understand that everything that they buy has sales tax on it, unfortunately. Next, I would pass out everyone an example of the paycheck that we would do together, and that would be this one. And it's got some questions at the bottom of it, so I'll read the questions first. It says, questions to go along with paycheck to discuss together. It says, when did this pay period take place? How much did she earn during this pay period? Did she have any deductions? How many hours did she work? And then the gross pay amount and the net pay amount. So this is a paycheck from a childcare company, and it's got the check up here and then a breakdown of the check. So up here it says she was paid $419 and she worked 84 hours. So I would go through this with the students. We would look at when the pay period started, when the pay period ended, her gross pay, her net pay, even her year-to-date amounts, and then even looking at her deductions, because sometimes people forget about that. They're like, oh, I should have got paid more, but you have your deductions for your Medicare, your health insurance, stuff like that. So I would sit down and go through all this with the students, and I would call on them to answer the questions for it. So for number 1, I would say, when did this pay period take place? And then I would instruct them they have to go look at the breakdown down here. So it says employee name, would that be your pay period? Would that be when your pay period takes place? They would say no. Issue date? No. Pay period start? Yes. That would probably be the right time. And then pay period end. So they would write that down. So that would be going through the paycheck. And if they didn't understand, I would try to do my best to explain. I would ask the students if they've ever seen a paycheck before, because most of them have jobs. So I would say, hey, can you share? Have you ever looked at your paycheck before? Do you know where your money's going? Do you know how much is taking out for your deductions? So I would ask this to the students, and I would say, this is something important to look at to make sure you're getting paid appropriately. So once that's done, I would go around and collect everybody's. Praise the ones that helped me, praise the ones that did good, praise the ones that are understanding, and then give the other ones a little boost of confidence and say, don't worry, we'll get this, it takes time. The next step would be to have all the students open up their computers and log into their accounts, which they should already be logged in before we even start the lesson, so we don't have to worry about any of that, and already have their headphones, so they should just be able to open up their computers after we're finished, and they should just be able to begin watching their video. So the video would look something like this. It says, understanding my paycheck, where did all my paycheck money go? And it would have another example of a paycheck like the one we just did. And it would go through in detail about all the different steps, all the different parts of the paycheck, and then the students would again have to answer some questions on their own to go along with it. The last step, I would give the students about 5 to 10 minutes to probably work on that, depending on how long the video is, which I think it's only like 1 minute 45 seconds, so it shouldn't be too long, but I would give them extra time to answer those questions. The last step would be to have everybody come back in together and redirect their attention to the board, because I would explain that we're going to talk about why people choose certain jobs. Is it because of their happiness, because of pay, things like that. Usually it's a little bit of both, but I would use my example as wanting to be a teacher. I'd say because I love working with you guys, and it makes me happy every day being able to come in here and interact with you guys and help you guys learn. But the pay end isn't all there, because teachers don't get paid that much. So I would say I mostly do it for my happiness, and it's because something that I really enjoy. And then I would have them kind of come up with some examples on their own, and I would jot them on the board, and we would say if it's because of pay or if it's because of happiness and things like that. And I would actually have them specifically say some jobs that they would want to do and why they want to do it, to try to gear it towards like why people choose jobs, not just because, oh, I get paid a lot, I'm just going to go do this, like I'm going to go be a surgeon because they get paid a lot, but you really don't like that, so why would you want to go force yourself into do something that you don't like? So then I would end it off there and ask the students if they have any questions, or if they want to see any more example paychecks that we can kind of go over together in the future for better understanding.